So about a month ago I received these controllers from TC Electronic with the question if I could make a review of them. So yeah, why not? Let's go! So first of all, what are these things about? Let me put them over here for now. These things are part of a bigger lineup with plug-in controllers from TC Electronic and also Midas. And the cool thing about these things is that they all have the same form factor, so you can literally put them next to each other and it creates kind of a bigger controller. Controllers like these, as it turned out for me, are a big deal. Having tactile control, so you can feel it over your plugins, is literally a whole nother experience. It feels a little bit like you're adding another layer in your workflow or another dimension. Sounds a bit strange, but let me explain. One of my favorite things of analog gear is having a knob to turn instead of that fiddling with the mouse stuff. On analog, you have to do recalls. If I, work on a different song and then want to go back to the first song I did, I have to look at the pictures that I made and then recall the settings. With these things, it's controlling a plugin and the settings in the plugin are being saved with the session. So that's a huge plus. Now I would give the build quality of these things about a 3.6, if you know what I mean. Not great, not terrible. And this mostly has to do with the push buttons. Fun fact, I've already opened them up to see if I could replace them with something better, more tactile, more solid, but I don't think that is possible. Also, a part of these controllers is a dot matrix display for the readout of the values. And that is cool, but in some conditions it's impossible to read. Now, setting up these controllers to work is the easiest thing in the world. Install the plugin, which you can also use without the controller. Connect the controller over USB and done. That's literally it. It just works. Also, what is really interesting is that they did a very good job at working with multiple instances of the same plugin. It automatically detects which channel is active or which plugin window is active, and at least in Reaper, it also knows which tab you have opened. I did run into a lot of issues with other plugins of the same type that have some hardware control. I just said that this thing connects over USB, and from me, from the pro audio perspective, that's a little bit of a hassle. Most of all, if you're going to get more of them, please be aware that you are going to need a big USB hub for it. Now, when you dive into these controllers a little bit more, you'll discover how feature-rich the plugin actually is. There is so much to control that it is almost too much for such a small surface, such a small amount of buttons and knobs. And I really wonder why they didn't make it bigger, because I needed to scroll through the pages and settings a lot. Now I want to quickly zoom into the individual controllers a little bit more. And let's start with the MasterX HD. They really almost look the same. And this thing controls a 3-band multiband compressor, expander and limiter. And it's kind of interesting because this thing works different from a normal multiband. Normally you would have separate attack, release, ratio and threshold controls on a multiband. But no. Not on this one. This thing is designed around a different method, which is a TC only thing, I think. It's called curves, where you can choose between different curves: flat, bass, air and smiley. And what this does is it sets the threshold relationship between the bands, which then is controlled by the main threshold control. And things like ratio, attack and release are being managed for all the 3 bands at the same time. And for me, that is kind of a showstopper, because in almost every situation that I tried to use this thing, I wanted to alter at least one of these settings on the individual bands and not globally. What is included in the MasterX is a simple soft clip feature, but I didn't use it because the one in the Brickwall has more flavors. So let's talk about that, the Brickwall HD. And this thing is really interesting because it really defeats the FabFilter Pro L2 when you take a look at its features. I mean, you could use it as a replacement for the L2, but the Brickwall also has that soft clipping in 3 different flavors. And that is actually something that I sometimes miss a little bit on the Pro L2. Also, the Brickwall HD supports setting the input gain on a LUFS basis, which is great when you want to master something for modern day streaming standards. Now, it has 4 different profiles. that you can use. It has a general profile, a profile for rock, one for acoustic and one for vocals. And I think they all speak for themselves. And now the important part, the sound of the units. Or rather, their plugins, because it's just a controller. And the main issue that I discovered with the plugins, and this goes most of all for electronic music, is that the attack on the MasterX cannot be set long enough. And at the same time you want to set the attack on the low band maybe to the quickest setting, but yeah, you cannot do that because it's all connected to each other. In general, I wanted a longer attack on my mid and high band. And at the same time, the release on the Brickwall isn't fast enough. And that's kind of a problem, which I shall now show you guys in a demo. Now, where these units work a lot better is on pop and rock music, and here's an example of that. So, conclusion time. And if we sum it all up, it's pretty simple. These units are exactly what you can expect from their price. The MasterX costs 250 euros and the Brickwall costs 198 euros. And where I think these things work great are in situations like broadcasting or live streaming, where you want to have direct tactile access to the settings if wanted. In music, they're also useful, but not for everybody. The cool thing about this thing is that you can try it out yourself. You can get the plugin first, even the trial. And if you like the sound, you can get the controller as well. And if you don't like the sound, then don't bother with it. Now, last thing I want to note is that it takes some time before you can use these controllers properly and quickly. The plugins are pretty feature-rich, as I said, so there's a lot of layers in the controllers which you have to learn to, well, memorize and get into your muscle memory. And that is where I want to end this video. Now, huge thanks to TC Electronic for supplying these units, and thanks to Krijn and Lewin for the music that I've used for the demos. I'll link to all of them below. Now, if you are interested in buying these controllers, consider doing that with my affiliate link. It's linked below. And that way you will help protecting the channel from sponsors with bad intentions. Let's just call them that. Now, I have other ways to support me linked below. Consider joining my fan club over here on patreon.com. You get early access to videos and some other good stuff. It's all on there. Or watching more videos, of which one is linked over here. Now, I want to end with thanking you all for watching. Keep pushing, and bye-bye.